So hello and welcome to our webinar, which we usually call MetaChat, as we like to call it. This is a platform or forum where we always discuss with experts on topics that relate to industry trends, thought leadership, business issues that require expert opinions. And today we'll be discussing on the topic that says digital payments in 2024 and talking about three key challenges that most organizations will tend to face. I know you may say we are still in the half of 2023, and why are we in a hurry into 2024? But I mean, one of the things that make businesses successful is the fact that um, we have to be proactive as much as we can. And so looking ahead into 2024 and how we can combat, security challenges is something that would be of paramount at this time. And so looking at the last 2 years, there was a transition for the financial industry as it moved towards payments. And as part of this phase, we realized that payments is becoming an enabling function that is embedded and invisible to provide an immersive, seamless, and frictionless customer experience. Before I continue, I'd like to introduce myself. I'll be your host for today. My name is Annie, or Annie Ntia, based in Lagos, Nigeria, and I work with MetaMap as the product and growth manager, where much focus is put into giving full experience to customers to experience the product for themselves and how we can help customers also discover solutions to the problems they're facing through our products and services. Please ensure to make use of the Q&A chat feature as we go through the course of this webinar, and we'll ensure that we take your questions as much as we can before the end of this session. As I was saying, in recent years, Africa has witnessed a remarkable evolution in the realm of digital payments, transforming the way people, transact and engage with financial services. With the proliferation of mobile technology and increased internet connectivity, I mean, as we know, mobile and internet connectivity has increased in Africa over time. The mobile penetration is really huge. And of course, so is digital payments that has emerged as a very powerful tool, offering convenience, security, and financial inclusion for millions of people. And Africa is also a digital payment landscape that has experienced significant growth driven by rapid adoption of mobile money services such as Momo that you have in Nigeria and Ghana, M-Pesa in Kenya, and EcoCash in Zimbabwe. These have revolutionized how individuals conduct transactions, allowing them to send and receive money, pay bills, and access financial services through their mobile phones. This innovation has been particularly impactful in regions where traditional banking infrastructure is limited. But before I continue into this very interesting conversation with the topic I had mentioned earlier, I would like to introduce our guests for today. I have Nicholas and Dario, who are also, I would say, my colleagues at MetaMap. I like to call them revenue enablement experts. They have several years of experience in enabling revenue teams, commercial teams, and companies to a fast growth process. So I would like to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves in a more detailed and fashionable manner. Let's start with Nico.
Thank you so much, Annie, for the kind introduction, and welcome everyone today. It's a pleasure to see people joining us from many, many countries and many industries as well. Hope that you guys, as Annie was saying, use the chats window to make any questions, introduce yourself as well, and make this meta chat more interactive. As Annie was mentioning, I work in the revenue enablement department at MetaMap. We have a cross function internal here, which involving many different areas and working for many different countries and regions at the same time. This has granted us this Hawkeye view of many trends, many challenges, and many things going on in many of the industries we work with today, namely banking, fintech, payments, and so on and so forth. As of myself, I do have a couple of experience years working in fintech and banking in my home country in Argentina. I was one of the co-founders of a fintech startup, also involved in user experience and how to enable fintech products to everyone in my country and the region. So I'm quite close to the challenges and trends that the fintech sector is facing globally. And the payments conversation we're going to have today is going to be super tight for that. So I think that's an introduction, giving the mic to Dario.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nico. Thank you
Nico.
very much. Thank you. And once again, here with Nicolas, as he mentioned it, we have been having these talks with different teams in different regions about different topics and trends and challenges in different industries. And yes, my name is Dario Calderon, and I am based in Colombia. I've been working for the last 22 years in different technology companies, and that allows me to see how this has been changing all the time, how we are using the technology to implement different ways to move on, to move forward with different solutions that we can give to our customers. And this is the topic that we are talking about today, and how we can use the technology, or how the technology has been used is the other way to see it, in order to make our customers the life easier, our customers easier. So different challenges, different trends that we are going to see, and how we need to be aware of that, how we can take advantage of that in order to make better our services in our different companies. So not only banking, as Nico mentioned, and not only banking, not only fintechs, the every person who needs to make a transaction today and make a payment need to be aware of these kind of solutions and how we can make these different processes for them.
Awesome. Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Nico. I mean, as we have heard, these two strong men have like really vast experiences, and so we are definitely in good hands for the next couple of minutes to get more insights on digital payments for 2024. And so to get started with the discussion, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. As mentioned earlier, today's key points for the discussion would be mostly around, what are the most type of fraud attempts companies, organizations usually get from a payment perspective? What other discoveries are there in the latest trends in terms of the industry? And lastly, what are the top three security challenges in digital payments that are expected for the year to come? And so, without much further ado, let's start with Nico. To tell us from his, level of expertise and experience, what's, Nico, do you think is the most frequent type of fraud attempts most organizations tend to face or could face in the coming year?
Thank you very much for the question, Annie. Yeah, but working in MetaMap, and again, I really give importance to working in many industries and at the same time many countries. Have been exposed to the widest possible variety of things going on in terms of fraud attempts. There are five key fraud strategies that we are implementing, that we are seeing being implemented, especially in 2023 and the past couple of years, starting with phishing and social engineering. As I mentioned, I come from Buenos Aires, Argentina, a country that has been particularly exposed to fraud attempts after COVID. For those in the audience who don't know already, phishing is cyber criminals essentially using deceptive tactics to trick individuals to give them special information or important information. There's a very specific data point that I want to mention in regards to this very common fraud attempt called phishing that comes from Kaspersky, and this that 7% of the computers in Nigeria have fell for phishing attacks in 2022. 7%. Imagine
7%.
millions of
Wow.
computers. This is millions of people every single year being exposed to phishing attempts and falling as victims in most cases. And the fact that really surprised me when I read this in a report by Kaspersky is that this cipher is literally double than in 2021. So what will happen in 2023 once the year ends, and 2024 and beyond? So the trend only shows us that phishing is continue to grow in emerging markets in particular, given the nature of the environment and like maybe uh, the lack of experience some digital users have, um, which shows us that this is only gonna get bigger. So that's, I would say, trend number one and the top thing to keep in mind when trying to cover ourselves from fraud. Uh, Number two is a very big one, is card fraud. Of course, unauthorized use of credit or debit card information. There's a very interesting case in South Africa where a criminal syndicate installed skimming devices on ATM. Being South Africa quite a touristic country, they essentially installed these devices in places where tourists tend to frequent, right? So they got to capture credit card details during legitimate transactions, essentially, or people just receiving money from an ATM, and they ended up using, of course, this legitimate information for illegitimate transactions. And that's quite difficult to track, especially given the lack of financial and security infrastructure that countries like South Africa might have. Uh, One interesting data point about card fraud is that this type of fraud amounted to, listen, $27.85 billion in 2020. This is, of course, globally. These are ciphers by the Nielsen report. I really encourage everyone to check it out. But again, number two, card fraud only getting bigger every single year. And there's a 49% increase in Africa alone in card fraud losses from 2018 to 2020. So again, together with phishing, this constitute most of the fraud attempts happening in Africa, and I would say happening in the world as well. So the two biggest things to keep in mind when trying to reduce fraud attempts. Number three, identity theft. We could speak hours, Ani, Dario, working in MetaMap, about how we see adulterated documents every single day. We even have Slack channels and some very fun compilations of what are the most creative ways that people try to trick our security systems with a document that has the face of another person, adulterated text, maybe a template that doesn't exist, or even a document that people just made up. This is also getting bigger, and identity theft essentially gives criminals the power to use that stolen identity and maybe go to the bank, ask for a loan, and uh, essentially compromise both sides of the equation. If you, I'm talking to the audience here, if you work in a bank, if you work in a fintech company, it's quite easy to see how big of a problem this becomes. The solution is really simple. We're gonna discuss this later on in the webinar, and of course, MetaMap being an expert in identity theft and how to prevent it, essentially, uh, we could talk hours on what are the best strategies to mitigate this risk. One interesting statistic about this identity theft fraud strategy, and then I'm gonna give the mic back to you, Annie and Dario, to discuss and maybe ask another question. Is that 1.3 million cases in the US alone in 2020, representing over 100% increase from the previous year. Meaning that after COVID, we have seen
Wow.
this fraud attempt more than double every single year. Then this is only in the US. You can imagine that an emerging market, a market that doesn't have the same structure of compliance software or strategies to prevent and mitigate this fraud attempt, we'll see even greater increases. So, given that we are focusing this webinar in Africa and emerging markets as a whole, we can see this become way bigger over time. And who knows how big identity theft is going to be in 2023 and beyond. Uh, Annie, Dario, happy to hear your comments about this. I only mentioned three. I think we can go over this topic for hours and hours. It's only getting bigger, and we being in the center of everything. I see we have this Hawkeye view on the most common fraud attempts.
Yeah, Nico,
Awesome.
and
Thank you,
there
Nico,
is
for that detail. Sorry, Dario. I just wanted to
no.
say, just to add to what Nico said, in terms of there was about 7%, big companies or individuals who suffered phishing attacks, in the previous year, and the year before that, it
Mhm.
was pretty much half of that. So that indicates that there is an upward trend, of cyber attacks or phishing attacks that may happen and businesses may suffer. And so in that light, Dario, it would be good to get your own perspective or your own, opinion from that angle, as well as also giving your thoughts on what are the challenges of the payment industries as of today.
Well, yes, and beside what Nico said, there is something that calls my attention the other day reading about what is happening in Africa with these payments, these virtual payments that we are using right now. And there are, they said that one of the main challenges right now it's that only the 40% of the population has a banking account. So besides the payments, this is a great opportunity for the banking sector because as I mentioned it, you have the 60% of the population still without a banking account. So you need to go and pursue this part of this side of the market and work with them in order to make them use the technology for the different solutions that the banks can offer, and after that, of course, start to using the virtual payments. And yes, challenges in the security are big, really big, and one of them is how we can prove the identity of the person who is making a payment, right? So, and also the other challenge that I consider we have right now, it's regulation, right? Because we need to understand how we can prove that the person who I am doing these transactions is the person who they are saying they are. And this is the main center of the challenge that the regulation has right now. And it's okay, we can, as I read the other day, we can open the spectrum for these virtual transactions that we have. But before that, we need to make sure that, as Nico mentioned, these kind of frauds are reduced. That this kind of pitching, that this kind of new trends about this security are burning every day. So it is important for us to understand that, okay, we can move forward with the regulation. And as the government said all the time, we can move forward with that, but we need to make sure that first we have everything under control. So as we move forward, and that's the issue with the technology. And as I told you guys, working in technology for the last 22 years, it shows me that every time that we have a solution, of course, you have a villain who is working in the way that they can attack this new solution, right? So it is important for us to understand that if we have a solution, of course, you have an enemy in the other side. So it is important to start to work on that. Every time that I am proposing a new product, a new solution, okay, you need to think about that probably the other way around is that the person is trying to attack that solution and take advantage of that. So once in MetaMap, at least once that we are working in a solution, of course, we are thinking all the time, okay, what could be the gap that we have in security orders to understand and attack before to launch a new product.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dario, for that very detailed response. Nico, do you want to add anything to that in terms of what you think would be the challenges companies are facing today in the industry of payments?
Sure. I would say number one is acknowledging the big growth in fraud, especially since COVID. We usually don't like to give too much importance to COVID because we like to think of a new paradigm, a new world, and like leaving the old things behind, leaving the past behind. But it's really a breaking point in terms of fraud. I only gave you a couple of statistics, but the more you investigate, the more you see that after 2019, after 2020, things really start to change, and especially in two industries. Number one, payments. Number two is banking. Uh, Payments, I would say, is the number one industry exposed to all type of crimes because it involves sensitive information in all parts of the process. One, user data. Two, card information or payment details. And three, also someone or some institution that is receiving that money in the other end. So it also has to comply to some security or compliance standards if they don't want to get their information or money stolen. So the only conclusion that we take from all of this is that cybersecurity has to gain a higher rank in the priorities that organizations, especially again in payments, especially in banking and other related industries, are giving. Up until a couple of years ago, I think that cybersecurity was only a nice to have, right? AML, fraud departments weren't the center of the operation by any means, and I would dare to say that they are still not today. Luckily, this is changing. I'm seeing some organizations, some big banks, like dedicating special cybersecurity teams to specific fraud attempts, like the ones I mentioned before. So it wouldn't surprise you to go to the biggest banks in Nigeria, check out the biggest banks in South Africa, for example, or even Kenya, banks that do have some sort of presence and some years of experience in fraud and trying to cover against these fraud attempts, having specific departments to tackle specific fraud attempts. For example, having a credit card fraud department, having an identity theft department. Um, when these teams partner with tools like in the industry that cover fraud from 0 to 1, that is really the solution, or that's really the way to overcome this challenge, which is growing fraud um, all across the board. Of course, there are many things that I can mention, such as regular training, simulated phishing exercises, promoting digital behavior best practices, and overall, like adopting that uh, fraud mitigation culture all across the board are some other complementary initiatives beyond this prioritization of cyber attacks and cybersecurity, naturally.
Awesome. I mean, I'm loving these insights on cybersecurity, the importance. I mean, especially for Africa, Nigeria, Kenya. You know, this is something that a lot of companies have really struggled with over time. And of course, as technology is evolving, cyber attacks are also evolving. There are always new measures, new tricks. Let me call them tricks that are always, brought into light every other year or every other time period. And so definitely putting in proactive measures by organizations is something that is worth the time and worth the while in terms of driving infrastructure profitability. And so that being said, please, as you all know, please make use of the chat feature or the Q&A section. Please share your questions and we'll definitely take our time to answer every one of them before the end of this interesting session. And moving on to the main topic of discussion, which is pretty much around these three key challenges that we've identified to be a struggle for the security, should I say, departments in the coming year. Dario, Nico, I'm going to open the floor for both of you to really tackle this conversation, talking about 5 key trends to watch out for in the coming year. And I'll let Dario go first.
Sure. The trends in 2023 and of course 2024, which is the main topic of this session. And I got 3. Yeah. And the first one is the QR code. So for payments, it is important for you to, the center of this is to, as I said previously, make our customers' lives easier, right? So the trends, the first one, it's continue to be the QR code. So some companies or some stores in which we are trying to buy or get a new product or something that we need in our home, in our, I don't know, probably in different aspects of the life, right? So in the stores, you are going to continue to find the QR code beside the cashier and said, okay, you can scan this this QR code, and this is going to take you to a website in which you can make your payment faster, right? Not it's not only about something that you need to do when you are not in person. Of course, you are, as I told you, beside of the cashier, but it's the way that you can make this quickly as usual, right? So you don't need to use your car, because sometimes when we are I don't know, probably sometimes happens when you are buying something, and at the moment of the transaction you see, hey, I forgot my wallet, right? And you can offer this kind of solution. Okay, all the information about banks in our financial life is in our telephone, and we are going to speak about this later. So in our mobile phone, so it's easier for you to offer, okay, don't worry, if you forgot your wallet, you can scan this QR code, and you are going to make the payment even faster than processing that card. So this is the first trend, and it's going to continue to be having presence in 2024 too. The other one is links of payment. So this is for non-presence purchases or buying. So some companies are offering this kind of solution to, okay, now you can buy a product, and one of our representatives can support you by WhatsApp. So every time that you are seeing a website with the information, with the products that we are offering, people can say, I'm not secure, or I am unsure about what I am trying to buy, or what I would like to buy. So you can have the support of the person in the probably in the website directly, or you can offer the way that, okay, our team can support you by WhatsApp, which is another, it's not only a tool about communication right now, it is also for support our customers. So having this link to make the payments, it's something that the company needs to handle right now. So it is important for you to have these kind of solutions that you can say to your customer, okay, now you have your choice. Now you made your choice. It is important for you to make the payment. And if you have no time to come to our store, or if you would like to receive in your home and you don't have the credit card or these regular or traditional payments solutions, you can have, and you can click in this link that I am going to send you, and you can make the payment in different ways that you consider is better for you to do it. So that's the second one. And the third one, I think is going to be continue growing during 2024, which is the e-wallets, right? So as I mentioned it previously, everything is in our mobile phone right now. So having these kind of solutions for you to, you don't need to take with you your credit cards. You just need to have your mobile phone, and all the information is here. So how can I make the payments only using my mobile phone? But this is going to be the center of the operations, I think. And for me, the most important thing is to offer the security for our customers to say, hey, okay, this is you, and only you can use your mobile phone to make your payments. So that's the way that MetaMap it's working right now. And as you probably know, it's our main center of the business, which is proving the identity, verification, the identity of our customers. So it's the way that we can join forces with different customers, with different markets, saying, okay, this is the person who is saying that they are, and they are trying to make a payment. But for that, it is important for you as a probably customer, or probably as a store. It is important for you to understand that you can accept the payment from anybody. So you need to make sure that you are making a transaction with a person and have that trust that you are doing these kind of processes with them. So having these e-wallets, it is important for you to understand that it's not only my responsibility as a customer to have everything under control in my mobile phone, but it's also important for the stores and the companies to offer this kind of trust, right? So saying my customers, okay, I'm not accepting payments from somebody who can steal your identity. I am proving that I am making transactions with you. So it is important for us to understand that. Nico, not sure if you have something to add.
Actually, yeah, I mean, one point that we always like to discuss whenever we're touching this point of how a company adapts to the digital revolution and what sort of products and services you should be offering. Um, this concept of a higher standard, a higher bar for every single service that you're offering in terms of digital availability. What you mentioned, Dario, he's right. He's in the right spot in the sense that if you are not doing X, you won't be getting clients. Even worse, you'll be losing clients against your competition. E-wallets is an example. Digital payments is an example. Crypto might be on this list maybe in a couple of years. We were hoping that last year or even 3 years ago, crypto was going to be much more widespread as a typical payment medium, which we have to say it's not. At least it hasn't proven to be so ubiquitous as we had first foreseen, but might make it to the list. All in all, there's a growing list of demands that the clients will have, and if you're not complying with those demands, in including them in your services and products that you're offering, you are one step behind the competition. So as from a product perspective, if you are not keeping this higher standard in mind, you're going to be running from behind, especially in fast growing markets like Africa, like Latin America, like even Southeast Asia. So it's really important to keep in mind that the only one that's winning from this revolution is a client. And we, the companies, have to work harder and harder and harder to keep up with the growing demands and, again, not fall behind that growing standard of user experience.
Awesome, awesome. Um, yeah, in addition to what you said about crypto, yeah, we all, should I say, had high hopes, and then right now it's kind of like flat. But obviously, you never know what happens in future, in terms of trends, in terms of emergence of new technology that will really help mitigate payments security challenges that most organizations are facing today. All right. That brings us to the wrap of the discussion session. And now we go into the question and answer session. First question is for Dario. So this question says, how has the widespread of adoption in digital payments impacted financial inclusion in Africa?
Well, that one is a good one, and I think it's going to be great. And I am saying this because the technology is supporting us in offer different ways to make the payments, right? As I mentioned it already. But speaking about cost, is going to be easier for us, or is going to be something that we can take advantage of, because probably at the first time you are seeing this like an investment, right? So okay, I need to invest in a new way to offer to our customers this possibility to make payments in a easier way. But we often think about the short term, right? I need to make an investment, but in the long term, is going to be the companies are going to have a better profit, because you don't need to invest in probably 3 or 4 cashiers in a store. You need to invest only in 1 or probably 2. And having said that, I am not saying that probably the technology it's moving or removing the human work, right? So I'm not saying that, because probably you need to have another person beside that, um, monitoring the way that the payments are doing, or monitoring the security, as we spoke already. But you are
Mhm.
offering solutions to our customers, right? And if I have a solution for our customers to make a purchase, to buy a product, you can extend the way that you offer these products for our customers. So the products for your customers. So in that way, you can have a better range, a bigger range
Yeah.
of people buying your products than only going to a different stores, right? So that's the way that I am seeing it right now, and it's the way that you can make your profit better than we have today. If you have more solutions to make a payment, if you have different ways, if you have the QR code, if you have the link, as I told you, if you have a person who is supporting me make a purchase through WhatsApp, and at the end you are sending to me this link to payment,
Mhm.
it's of course this is going to be translated in a better profit for the companies.
Awesome.
I hope I answered the question.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, and just giving us that insight as to the widespread adoption. I mean, another one I could add would be the growth of internet usage. This is something that is really growing really fast in Africa, especially Africa, and definitely over time, mobile is definitely the future. Mobile payments, mobile banking in general. And so definitely, how can companies begin to adopt to this particular industry, bearing in mind that the security threat is also high, and definitely they need to put some measures in place as they adopt into this new industry. Thanks, Dario, for that. Next question says, what are some of the key factors driving the rapid growth of mobile money services in Africa? Nico, will you take that?
Yeah, I can take this one. It's incredibly interesting to take a look at the African case for mobile banking, and there's one distinction from this technological development that, at least in my consideration, is unique in the history of the whole human technology, and that is that mobile banking doesn't follow the last natural step, which should be, as it happened in the rest of the other markets, landslide. Phones, for example, like actual fixed phones, and before that, radio, and so on and so forth. If you take a look at the West and even South America, we can take that as an example. Mobile phones only followed land phones, and land phones only followed the radio. That didn't
Mhm.
happen in Africa. Mobile banking just appeared sort of out of the blue,
Yeah.
jumping some intermediate steps, and that really didn't happen in the rest of the world. There are a couple of reasons for this, and there's of course lots of speculation as to why this happened. I would say the key reason, or reason number one at least, would be that the connectivity of the 21st century allowed for Africa to skip these intermediate steps and jump to mobile banking directly, meaning that if you do have a smartphone, which we didn't have before 2010, and if you do have mobile connectivity, you have the two key ingredients for a proper mobile banking solution. The only third solution would be someone who is willing to build a product or offer a service around mobile banking, which, given the enormous economic incentive for doing this, that naturally happened in an emerging market such as Africa, right? And maybe the second ingredient to this formula would be proper regulation and legislation from pan-African governments. I think flaws have happened, and that's natural to every technological advancement. There have been many mistakes done, but as a whole, I would say that African governments have set up this framework for a supportive legislation and have tried their best in setting up some regulatory framework um, to allow companies to operate in this space, despite some gray definitions here and there. Again, governments and regulatory bodies recognize the potential of global banking for the 1 billion African consumers, introduce regulations promoting financial inclusion, promoting consumer protection, and interoperability in many countries as well. So I would say, and to sum it up, this regulatory environment has really encouraged innovation, and that's really a key necessity for entrepreneurs to start building banking solutions out of the blue. This couldn't have happened without the proper legislation. So I would say that's the final ingredient to this formula as to why this happened. It's really interesting to see what's going to happen next. I think, again, this was a unique advancement in the whole history of human technology. Not sure if it's ever going to happen again, but Africa always tends to surprise us. So maybe the next step is jumping a couple steps that are ahead of us. So when AI finally happens, we might see Africa being the leader of this. And as someone said, that Africa was the Silicon Valley for banking a couple of years ago. Africa might also be the Silicon Valley for AI. So hopefully this happens, and hopefully Africa is leading the way.
Yeah, I mean, we can already see it penetrating or emerging, into the market. So over time, definitely it would be at a high scale, for sure. Last question I have here says, can you provide examples of innovative digital payment solutions or platforms that have emerged in Africa and are making significant impacts? I think I can take this one. I have a couple of examples in mind. There is M-Pesa in Kenya. There's Flutterwave Paystack in Nigeria. There is Yoko in South Africa, and there's also Cellulant in Kenya as well. But putting a spotlight on M-Pesa, I would say, I mean, especially with my experience with that particular product and service, it's been very innovative and revolutionary in the sense that it's kind of like it is positioned in a way that it solves the problem of digital payments for all class of people. Both individuals in the urban area and rural area have easy access to swift payments to users, right? And then you don't need internet to make financial payments or to make purchases of any goods and service. And so at the end of the day, it's something that has really brought, strong solution to the digital payments in Africa. Another instance would be looking at Nigeria as a case study. Earlier in the year, there was some change in cash policies from the Apex Bank, and so that left a lot of Nigerians stranded. In terms of being so used to using cash as the major source of transaction. But with that has brought an opening eye to the market in the sense that users are now beginning to look at digital payments as an option for payments, and so it has now begun to grow this year. So definitely in the next year to come, there would be a higher adoption, and with this higher adoption, there will definitely be new tricks, new, should I say, fraudsters coming to light to see how they can take advantage of this growth in mobile adoption. And so this is where I feel MetaMap come into play to see how companies can leverage technology, AI, human service, fraud detection to really mitigate these fraud attacks that's coming into light. And so I would wrap up this session with Dario just giving us a brief overview of how MetaMap can really help mitigate any challenges that companies might face this year, next year, or in years to come.
Yes, thank you, Annie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nico, for that for answering the questions. And also something that I would like to say is, as I said previously, we know that we need to make an investment right now in order to move forward with the technology and using the technology for our customers and of course to make to get more customers using the technology. So MetaMap is doing something great, which is about verification of identity, and it's the center of the payments of one of the main challenges that we have in digital payments, which is prove me that you are the person who you are saying. So I would like to put in the chat window, and I did it already, our MetaMap website. So you can go there and read a little more about how we can join efforts with your companies and how we can help you to understand a little more about this and how we can support you in implement these different digital payments solutions that market, not MetaMap, but the market has for your customers. And I know that probably you are thinking or thinking as a CEO, probably, okay, I need to invest more in more of my profits in this. Yes, but in the way that you are getting more customers with these solutions, your profits are going to be higher than before. So don't forget to visit our website, see our solutions, and you can even search for Nico, Annie, and Dai in LinkedIn. And if you have any questions or comments, we can, of course, guide you or lead you in how we can, as I told you, join efforts. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for joining today. Thank you very much, Annie, once again. Thank you very much, Nico, for another MetaMap meta chat. And see you in the next one. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And be rest assured that you will get the recording of this session to your mail, just in case you want to recap or share with your team members, what insights you've gathered today from this session. And so that being said, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Nicholas. And see you in the next one.